talking peace over power with the power of
GWPOP Talk. Are you ready to talk?
Hi there, welcome to a GWPOP InTent Talk. We have good intentions here, and yes, we are literally talking in a tent. We're here today to talk face-to-face with some people here in South Park in Hermosa Beach, California, on various subjects such as music, health, food, social media, and most of all, peace. Our main intention with GWPOP is to open conversation and to let thoughtful ideas in and shine light on ways to build the power of peace and make change a real possibility in our world. I'm Will, and I'm here with
Tracy with Fancy Tales.
Hi, Ricardo.
And the topic of the Intent Talk today is peace. The power of peace. Peace within yourself, within your community, and the ways to build and share that peace is what we're going to be exploring today. Name one thing you could do to create peace in yourself and your community.
That's a good one. Mental health is something that's kind of a voodoo thing to talk about, but mental health is like where everything begins to bring peace to the outside. You can't have peace on the outside without having it inside first. And I'm a big supporter of there's a class, it's a mindfulness class, and I signed up for it about a year ago and did it through one of the hospitals. And it was just this wonderful class. Each week we'd have homework, we'd go through it all. It would teach us exercises to do each week, like letting my thoughts come to your mind, letting those thoughts go, kind of like things on a conveyor belt, and letting any mind thought that comes through go ahead and just pass through without processing it, without acting upon it, and just learning the act of mindfulness. And each week it would be like a new assignment. We'd talk about things that were bothering us in our lives, whether it was physical abuse, mental abuse, or just issues in life, like housing issues, whatever the issues were, and addressing them so that once we find that innerness that we can deal with and have that stillness, then we can move forward with life in a much better, peaceful mindset versus just always reacting to things.
Well, I think of peace more about, in a way, how I can make a difference for peace in the world as a whole. So I'm thinking maybe more externally than internally. I probably would like to be more internal about it, and maybe mindfulness would be helpful for me. But I'm trying to educate myself on what's going on in the world, where we are within our own country and beyond our country, and all of this chaos that's going on.
I think there's a tension, a relationship, a dichotomy, connection between sort of peace internalized and sort of externalized. And the relationship between the two, and some of the great sort of makers of peace in the world, change makers for peace, were also people who might have come from a religious tradition or might come from a totally secular tradition, but have some sort of practices, ways of keeping themselves sane, for lack of a better term. Because the work of peace is hard. I think sometimes we can be lulled into a sense that peace is just about being nice, which is certainly better to be nice than mean, but the world isn't always a very kind place. And if working peace, sometimes there are forces around that have a vested interest in it not being peaceful. So it's interesting that you all kind of touched on that. So I wonder, I might respond back to say, get you to think a little bit about, so like, how does practices of mindfulness, those classes work? How does that sort of how does that set you up to make that sort of difference in the world externally for you? And then for Ricardo, maybe like the part of you that you named might need more work, or so get you to reflect on the other side of the coin, if you will.
I really think that peace on the outside, though, stems from each person within. I don't think someone can be a supporter of any kind of peace resolutions in anything in life without first having that peace inside, because that's where I think it all begins. It's always sad to see somebody do something great to help bring peace, but then inside they're just, they're like abusing a boyfriend or a girlfriend or something, that's when you get the scandals going.
Sure.
But I think on a larger scale, I mean, there has to be people that you can't just have the inner peace and not share it in a way. I think that people that have that inner peace, a lot of times they want to stay calm. They don't want to get involved in, arguing or fighting to have a voice and say something, because they enjoy that inner peace, and sometimes it becomes when you get too out there and try to fight for the peace, then there becomes chaos, and there's, what do you call them, when you go out and hold up the signs, what is that called?
Protesting.
Thank you. I'm like, and sometimes I feel like I need to be doing more of that, because I do have so many feelings inside about wanting to have peace and wanting, protecting people's rights and that sort of thing, especially with women. And a lot of times I just enjoy having my inner peace, and I don't feel like I always go out and do things about it to make a bigger difference in the world. And I think that's really important, and that's something I know I would like to do more of and work at, because sometimes I just have it here and I'm not really sharing it.
I think one of the ways that I can relate to in as far as an inner means of being able to then express outwardly things about peace is in reading. Reading about people who have been great examples, for instance, like Mandela, let's say, or Gandhi, or Martin Luther King, and the people who founded our nation, Thomas Jefferson, people like that who had the wherewithal throughout their life somehow to get to a point where they felt that they could express it outwardly to everybody that they touched in some fashion.
I'm gonna open it now because supposedly I'm hosting and I have that presumed authority. So we're gonna open. This is gonna become a 5-person conversation. And why not? If I could be so bold, why don't you all move a little bit so that the camera can pick you up if you want. You don't need to just there, or maybe angle towards. We can kind of we're all on stage together. I don't know. I think that's more interesting than seeing the back of your head.
My name's Casey. Everybody. I sort of agree with what you were saying in terms of that peace work isn't easy. And I think what you were saying about inner peace, it helps you do the hard work of peace. Because if you are reactionary towards someone, you sort of lose all your credibility. So to have that inner peace, to be grounded, to be firm in your convictions and not get too wound up, because then they cracked your whole kind of argument, and they're just oh, you're this crazy person, you're just going off, you're all emotional. So you need that inner peace.
So I'm an Episcopal priest, which means I'm a pastor, minister, and that's at a Episcopal church, which is a part of Christianity that is it's a tradition that's been around for a long time, and we like to say that we're a progressive community that stands for certain principles and about social justice and peace and community more than anything. So I do my work on a daily basis, sort of accompanying people with what life brings them. I mean, that's primarily where and so on any given day, that could be, mostly it's responding to people by email, because we all have too many emails and administrative things to do. But 2 weeks ago, 2 people in our church died within 24 hours. So that's obviously it's a pretty big disruption to peace in their life. And so people who do what I do for a living are trained to be present with people in those sort of crisis moments. More often than not, it's not a crisis like that. It's sort of some sort of issue going on. And so I've been doing this for 3 years, and I've been at this church in Hermosa for about a year. And I lived in the South and the East Coast before. But I'm finding more and more that sometimes people assume because I wear this thing around my neck, if they have any idea what that is. Most people nowadays don't even know what that is. They think it's some super hipster fashion trend. But it's this clerical collar, which is this old way of signifying that sort of my role. But sometimes people assume that people in my line of work are just really good at inner peace because we're supposed to be. Well, it's like anything in life. If you don't practice things, habits don't form. So I went to graduate school for 3 years, and the whole time professors and people said, if you don't, I would call it prayer, but lots of people could, mindfulness or all sorts of things, but some sort of practice that keeps you grounded, a sense of perspective, cultivating that peace. And they would say you really have to get a set of practices kind of in rhythm Because if you try and go out into the world and do this work, and you like have no way of, I would say, having God sustain me and connecting in my own way, because then it's my role to serve the people, then like the well is going to dry up.
One of the things that we have at the church that Will is talking about is a group called Peace and Justice Community. So in fact, it's a little step away from the usual way things might be in a church, but the whole idea is that anybody who is interested in trying to figure out what's going on in the world from the standpoint of peace and justice can be there and talk about what bothers or concerns them, and see if there's support within that community to then look for some kind of action that maybe can be taken. And it doesn't always have to be going out and protest with signs, but it can be to adopt a village someplace that needs help, or any number of different ways. The idea there is, I think, that people often will feel that they, as an individual, don't have enough strength or ability to carry anything forward that they might be thinking about in regards to peace.
I think there are certain things in life that we'll all devote our energy to, and some of them give back. Right? Service to a community is something that, from that belonging that you get there, and also the perspective of seeing the other people in the community and what they're going through. It's less of like me and my situation, more about like the community as a whole.
For me, my perspective is going to be very different because I live in the dog world. I'm a local dog walker in Hermosa Beach. Had my company for 15 years, so I don't see very many humans. Literally, I meet people once, I get the key to their house, and then every time I go, I'm always dealing with animals, cats, dogs, birds, fish, and feeding them and walking them. So I kind of always joke to people, like when I talk to people sometimes, people are like, I'm not a dog, because I'll be like, or sit, And so for me, my perspective on that peace and finding it is so different, because it's not, I do have my friends and everything, but for me, I actually find that animals really help with that peace, and even though it's not another human being, they have so much to give, and that to me is sort of, I guess, my fellowship or my gathering, because I find that animals are a companion, and finding peace a lot of times for me is spending time with an animal, and they just bring so much love, and so much unconditional love, and so much reward that, when my dog passed away a little over a year ago, her name was Kiki, and it was such a big loss to me because she was there for all the turmoil in my life, going through anything. I mean, there's no one that's been there for me, even more so than my family. I just think that unconditional love is so great, even military personnel, people, anyone who a lot of times does have a lot of emotional issues or fears and phobias and mental health, when someone gets a dog, it really is an emotional support animal, a companion, and they're there just to have that unconditionalness. And when people have something to take care of, they can fill themselves back up.
The interesting thing about animals, I have 2 cats, is that I think their presence, they're really good at being present.
Yeah.
But that also, I mean, they definitely get like scared. They get like anxious. They also have weird ways of knowing like if we're sad, or sort of presence is not just I'm here, I'm in the moment, but it's like I am responsive. I see you. I sort of like any good friend we have. Lots of times in my work, that's the role I play. Someone's just died, I'm there. I can't change that, and my job I see is to allow people to sort of honor and hallow, bless, religious words, what they're feeling. We would have a good bit of agreement about what peace kind of is, in the sense of, but how we find peace, how it's lived out in our life, how we go about getting it, replenishing it, like all sorts of diversity, which is great, and like allows us to live in our great big human family. So I'm being told we have to wrap up, but that's a good segue. That's a good closing. I appreciate all of you being here and the time that we spent together, and thank you.